Chapter 2. The Audition. The judge showed up 15 minutes early, as was his custom for everything. He didn't really want to be here, but Tina and Savannah insisted it would be a great honor and something he might enjoy. Some hot-shot Oscar-winning young director was going to film a movie based on Tina Christie's article about the groundbreaking Tim Carl trial, where his good friend and Alzheimer's patient, Jacob Jeebs, was the key witness. She had been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize in investigative journalism for it. It was called Jacob's Story, and so would the movie. He had been asked to audition to play himself in the film. At first he laughed it off, but the women encouraged him, and his best friend, Sheriff Clayton, tried to discourage him. In the end, he decided to come and audition the director. "So glad to see you, Judge Jackson," the casting director said as he entered what was a vacant Main Street storefront last week. "You're early, Your Honor." Kathy Chandler smiled at him. "Early birds gets the word. Isn't that what you folks in Hollywood say?" He smiled back at her. "Is he here yet?" "Oh, you mean the director, Colin Collingsworth?" she said with a reference usually reserved for royalty. "Yeah, whatever his name is. Where is he?" "Mr. Collingsworth will be delayed slightly." "Why?" the judge demanded. "I'm not sure. It could be an unscheduled conference call. Please take a seat and browse through some of our magazines while you wait." Kathy Chandler pointed to the assortment of glossy Hollywood magazines and periodicals. "I don't think he'll be much more than 30 minutes late." The judge looked at her with a hint of disdain. "Tell Mr. Wonderboy I'll be across the street at Doris's the Donut Queen. He'll find me on the terrace." "Mr. Jackson, sir, it's not protocol for a—" "For a judge to be kept waiting, Miss Chandler. Tell him I'll be there for the next 30 minutes, no longer." But... The judge was out the door, and a panicked casting director, Kathy Chandler, picked up the phone. When the judge had arrived home from his vacation in Quebec with a short pit stop at the White House on the way back to Clayton, he had made the decision that he would write a book, something he had always wanted to do but never had the time to even consider it before. A good friend and book publisher had approached him the day he retired and offered to publish his memoirs if he would consider writing them. He also laughed off the offer at the time, but now he was having second thoughts about it. It was an open offer. His friend had been explicit about that. He ordered a coffee and a piece of Doris's crispy apple pie. He pulled out the reporter's notebook that Tina had given him when he told her he was thinking of writing a book. "Don't go anywhere without this. You never know when the muse will hit you and you feel the urge to write. Without this, your thoughts are lost and maybe forever," Tina had said when she had handed him the notebook. "Oh, how right you are," he said out loud as he opened the notebook and took a pen from his shirt pocket and wrote the opening words of his memoir. "My quest to strive for justice and the truth began when my younger brother died in Vietnam." He was fighting with himself to write the next sentence when his coffee and slice of apple pie arrived, and a few seconds later a very apologetic Colin Collingsworth sat down at his table. "Judge Jackson, I am so sorry I'm late for our meeting, but I had an unexpected pre-production call that couldn't be avoided or postponed." "I understand," the judge said, taking a bite of the pie and savoring every second of it. "Of course, you know, I will want script approval," he said casually. "What? I'm not sure I understand." "I'm not going to say anything on camera that I didn't say in real life. As I told you when we first spoke, this film is loosely based on the Tim Carl murder trial. It will be a work of fiction and not a reenactment of the actual trial." "I don't care. I want to see the whole script before I agree to anything." "Well, this morning was only supposed to be an audition for you to play the role of yourself if I felt you were right for the part." He said with cockiness in his voice, "Well, that's your choice. I didn't ask to be here." The judge said in a tone that suggested he had regained the upper hand, "Well, as writer, director, and producer, I must retain the rights to change the script if I see fit." "Not when it comes to my dialogue," the judge said defiantly. "No words will come out of my mouth that I don't approve of. Your script be damned." Colin wasn't used to dealing with attitude when it came to actors in his movie. All of the A-list people clamored and begged to be in his movies. There was something about this old bugger that he really liked. The man was authentic. He had worked with divas before and had had no problem handling them on set. One of the keys to his success was his incredible rapport with the actors in his movies. His stunning visuals were another. The judge had watched his previous film on DVD with Tina and Savannah and John last week. The Defector had won the Academy Award for Best Film last year. All of them had agreed it was a fine movie and probably deserving of the award. "All right, Judge, why don't we go across the street when you're done with your coffee and pie and film your audition? You did study your lines, right?" "I spoke the lines in open court. Why would I need to study them? Why do you need to film me now? We're sitting here talking to each other. You're a film director, so you already know how I will look on camera. You're also the producer, so you don't need anyone's permission to cast the role. Email me the script, and after I read it, I'll let you know if I'm interested." The judge said, getting up from the table and throwing a $10 bill down. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Collingsworth," he said, extending his hand to Colin, who had also stood up. The two men shook hands, and then the judge walked out the door. Colin stood there for a few seconds, feeling irate, and then he smiled, and finally burst out laughing. Damn if that old bastard wasn't perfect to play himself in the movie. Then he wasn't an award-winning film director and writer. "Would you care for anything?" the lady behind the counter said. "Yeah, give me a dozen assorted donuts to take out, along with a large coffee of whatever the judge was drinking. It smelt delicious." "It's his special blend," the lady said, pointing up to her menu board. "Judge's Java Joe," the sign said. Colin burst out laughing. The role of the judge was definitely Judge Jackson's if he wanted it. He would email the script as soon as he got back to the casting office across the street. The judge got into his car and laughed all the way back to Jackson Manor. He was 74 years old and engaged to be married, and about to become a movie star if he wanted to. Whoever said life is all downhill after 60 didn't have a clue about life. Well, at least not his life anyway. As the judge pulled into the driveway of Jackson Manor, Savannah had just gotten off the phone with her doctor. She was feeling a little faint, but it passed quickly. "Is something wrong?" Tina Christie said, who now lived at the manor full-time with her fiancé and future husband. "I need to sit down." Savannah said and did so. "What is it?" Tina was concerned. Savannah breathed in and out a few times before answering. "It looks like John and I are having twins." The smiles on their faces were radiant, and they both started crying. Next thing, they were dancing around the room and laughing. They were giggling and squealing when the judge walked through the door. "What the hell is going on here?" the judge said, surveying the scene in front of him. "You girls having a hootenanny you didn't tell me about?" There was dead silence in the room as both women looked at the judge. He didn't know what to think. Sheriff John Burke was back on the job, and he had a big decision to make. And so did Deputy Jessica Clayton Stanton and Florida State Trooper Matt Gracie. He was now very aware of the intensity of their relationship. Theirs had started just like his and Savannah's, totally out of the blue. Jessica probably deserved to be his second in command, considering how she had stepped up in the aftermath of the bombing. Matt Gracie, on the other hand, was a Florida state trooper with almost 5 years on the job and was definitely more qualified. He didn't know for sure if Matt even wanted the job, but his gut instinct told him that he would accept it if Jessica could come to grips with it. He had invited both of them out to dinner tonight with him and Savannah. They would broach the subject then. Tina looked at Savannah with raised eyebrows, which told her that it was up to her what came next. "You'd better sit down, Gumpy."
"What is it, my little rose petal?"
he said, sitting down at the kitchen table. "John and I are going to have twins." He didn't know what to say, but he began tearing up. The women sensed this immediately and gave him a group hug. When he regained control of his emotions again, he looked at Savannah and flashed a proud grandpa smile.
"Double the pleasure, double the fun. I'm so happy for you and John."
Savannah hugged and squeezed him hard. "So how did the audition go, Gumpy?"
"Well, I don't know. He's kind of young, but seems okay. I told him to email me the script so I can read it and decide if I wanted to consider it."
"He offered you the job?" Tina said, excited.
"No, he hasn't, but he will. I just have to decide whether I want to consider it or not."
"You'll do the right thing, Gumpy. You always do." "I agree. He proposed to me," Tina said with admiration and respect in her eyes.
"Does John know yet?"
"No, I just found out now."
"Well, don't tell him until he gets home, so I can get out the double-barreled shotgun."
The judge emitted a loud laugh. "He's going to be so happy," Tina said with the pride of a soon-to-be grandmother if Savannah would let her be that person. "Do you really think so?" "Of course he will. I'm going to get as big as a beached whale."
"That just means there will be twice as much of you to love,"
the judge said proudly. Savannah had an oh-my-God look on her face. Tina knew what she was thinking. Would John still lust for her, and would she be able to lose the weight after the babies were born? "I'll help you," Tina said. "I'm going to need it. I'm here for you all the way."
"What are you girls talking about?"
"Something you will never understand," Tina said, smiling at him.
"You know, since I've retired, I've realized that sometimes ignorance can be bliss."
The three of them laughed. Everything would be okay. John would be thrilled by the announcement. They all knew it. Things were slowly getting back to normal in Clayton, and hopefully they could all soon put most of the past behind them.